He slammed her face into the pool chair so hard the glass of her sunglasses cracked against her cheek. Blood mixing with chlorine under the blinding Malibu sun. The crowd gasped, some frozen, others recording. A white police officer, Brock Keller, barked, "Get your hands where I can see them." "Lady!" His badge flashed, his grip rough, his tone dripping with arrogance. The woman beneath him, a black mother in a white bikini, looked up slowly, her lip trembling but her eyes steady as steel. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," she said softly. "I'm FBI. Before we dive into this story of justice, power, and truth, wherever you're watching from, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's begin. The Malibu sun blazed like a Hollywood spotlight on the infinity pool of Breeze Resort, where Elle Carver tried to remember what peace used to feel like. 5 years ago, she'd buried her husband, Jamal, after he was shot in the back during a no-knock police raid gone wrong. Since then, every sunrise felt like survival. Today was supposed to be different. She'd saved for 6 months. Overtime, sleepless nights, case after case in the Civil Rights Division of the FBI. All for this, a week in Malibu with her 10-year-old son. Milo, just mother and son, no courtrooms, no racism, no memories of gunfire. But the world had other plans. "Watch this!" "Mom!" Milo yelled, launching himself into the water with a perfect cannonball. His laughter filled the air, bright and contagious. Above him, his small drone hovered, recording their joy like a tiny guardian angel. Elle smiled. For a fleeting second. She let her heart believe in peace. Then the stares began. Wealthy white guests in designer swimsuits clutched their martinis tighter, whispering behind oversized sunglasses. A lifeguard pretended to adjust his headset, glancing at Elle's dark skin like it was a crime scene. When she first checked in, the manager, Vincent Lorenzo, a tall, slick Italian man with a fake tan and an even faker smile, had looked at her platinum card as if it were counterfeit. "Ocean View Suite. For a full week?" he'd said, skepticism thick in his accent. She'd smiled politely. "Yes, Mr. Lorenzo, and it's fully paid." He had nodded, but his eyes had already made a decision. At the pool now. Ella reclined on her chair, adjusting her sunglasses, pretending not to notice the tension in the air, but her instincts, sharpened by years in the FBI, told her something was coming. She could feel it. The rhythm of footsteps, the hush of curiosity turning into hostility. And then she saw them. 2 deputies from the Orange County Sheriff's Office. The first, Officer Brock Keller, was heavyset, his face red from both the sun and his own sense of authority. His mirrored sunglasses reflected the pool like a war zone. The second, Officer Riley Pierce, was younger, her uniform crisp, her eyes uneasy. She looked like someone trying to atone for something terrible. Elle would later learn she was. Keller stopped at Elle's chair, shadow swallowing the sunlight. "Ma'am," he said, but his tone was anything but polite. "We've had complaints. You're not a registered guest here." Lorenzo appeared behind him, smirking like a man certain of his power. "Multiple guests reported unauthorized use of the pool," he said, gesturing at Elle. "We don't allow outsiders." Elle blinked. Calm but firm. "Outsiders?" Her voice was low, measured. "You mean black women?" Keller's lips curled. "Don't get smart." "Sweetheart, let's see some ID before I start thinking this is welfare fraud." Milo froze mid-splash, water dripping down his face as confusion turned to fear. "Mom?" he whispered. Ella stood slowly, hands visible, every move deliberate. "Officer Keller," she said evenly, "I am a paying guest. You can confirm with the front desk." Keller grabbed her wrist without warning. His fingers dug into her skin, twisting, asserting control. "You watch your tone," he growled. "This pool's for paying elites, not handouts. The pool went silent. Every eye was on them. Some guests recorded. Others turned away. Embarrassed by their own silence, Keller yanked her forward, and in that moment, the sound of her sunglasses cracking against the chair pierced the air. Milo screamed, "Mom!" The drone above caught everything, but Elle didn't resist. She didn't shout. Instead, she turned her body slightly, just enough for the cameras to capture the badge number on Keller's chest. Then she spoke, her tone as cold as steel. "You just assaulted a federal officer." Keller froze. "What?" Elle reached into her bag, pulled out her black leather wallet, and flipped it open. The gold FBI badge glinted in the sunlight. Special Agent L. Carver. Civil Rights Division. The silence was instant, heavy, crushing. Keller's grip loosened as if the metal had burned him. Behind him, Riley Pierce's eyes widened in horror. "Oh, God," she murmured. "Federal." Lorenzo's tan seemed to drain away, his smirk collapsing. A misunderstanding. "Agent Carver. Of course. We'll comp your entire stay. No problem. Save it," Elle said sharply, taking Milo's hand. "You just exposed more than you realize." As she walked away, the crowd parted in stunned silence. Keller stood motionless, his jaw locked in humiliation, but beneath his embarrassment, something darker flickered, a promise of retaliation. Back in her suite, Ella tried to calm Milo. His small hands trembled. "You're not mad, right? Mom, I filmed it, just like you taught me." She hugged him tight. "You did perfect, baby. You were brave." Her phone buzzed on the table. A message, no name, just words. "Leave Malibu tonight, or the kid pays. We know where you sleep." Ella's heart stopped. She looked out the window at the ocean. Beautiful, endless, and suddenly terrifying. The waves crashed like warnings. This was no coincidence. This was a system. One that had already taken her husband, and now wanted her son. But this time, Elle Carver wasn't just a widow. She was the storm coming for them all. The night in Malibu was quiet, but inside room 742 of the Breeze Resort, fear breathed through the air like smoke. Elle Carver sat against the headboard, Glock in hand, her other arm wrapped around Milo. Every sound outside, the hum of the pool filter, a distant car door, made her tense. "Mom," Milo whispered, eyes wide in the glow of his tablet. "Are they gonna come back?" She smiled faintly, though her heart hammered. "They can try, baby, but we're not going anywhere." On the screen, Keller's face filled the paused video, his hand crushing her wrist, his eyes full of hate. The clip had already spread on social media, shared by bystanders. 2,000 views and climbing. Justice had a heartbeat, but so did vengeance. At 2:47 a.m., a faint metallic click broke the silence. The door handle turned once, twice, then scraped. Ella's instincts flared. She motioned Milo under the bed and whispered, "Now, hide," through the peephole. She saw Keller's bloated face distorted by glass, grinning like a wolf. A second man, one of the resort's security guards, held a crowbar. "Open up, Carver," Keller sneered. "Trespass order from management. You're leaving tonight." Ella's voice was calm, steady. "Show me a warrant." Keller slammed his shoulder against the door. The hinges groaned. "That's your warrant," he barked. She grabbed the dresser and shoved it against the door, heart pounding as wood splintered. "You're committing a felony, Keller," she shouted, "and I'm recording everything." Silence. Then Keller's mocking laugh. "Good! You'll have footage for your son's foster file." The words hit like a blade. Elle steadied her breath, checked her weapon, and called dispatch. "FBI priority code. This is Special Agent Carver. Immediate threat. Suspect. Sheriff's Deputy Brock Keller. Location. Malibu Breeze Resort. Room 742. Static." Then the chilling reply, Agent Carver, your clearance shows as suspended. Orders from Orange County DA. Her pulse stopped. That's impossible, she whispered. They're hacking your system, Milo said from under the bed, clutching his tablet. Mom, I can trace it. No, she said firmly, though she already knew he would. They waited until dawn before slipping out the back, leaving their luggage behind. Her FBI-issued sedan's GPS pinged an alert. Tracking activated. They're using the car's system, Elle muttered. We switch vehicles. By sunrise, they were on Pacific Coast Highway in a rental Ford Fusion from a friend's contact, heading north. Milo's laptop hummed on his knees, code streaming across the screen. I got in. Mom, he said, eyes darting, into the Breeze Resort app. You what? They use old Python backend code. Easy exploit. Look. Digital deny list. 200 names. She squinted. Each entry listed guest emails, zip codes, and tags. High-risk demographic, redirect to alternate housing. All Black or Latino zips. Ella's stomach twisted. They've been digitally profiling people. Look at the notes, Milo whispered. Comments like unverified income. Possible fraud. Even too urban. The cruelty was systematic, efficient, and high-tech. She dialed Rita Navarro, her closest ally in the Justice Department. Rita answered on the first ring. Elle. Are you safe? Barely. Ella said, I've got something ugly. An AI-driven blacklist for minority guests in Malibu. Rita's voice hardened. Sheriff Dalton Mercer runs Orange County like a private empire. Rumor says a billionaire funds him to clean the coast. Name? Victor Lang, Rita said. Tech mogul. 48. Founder of Luminex Systems. $2 million a year in donations to Mercer's Clean Malibu initiative. And the seizures? $5.2 million over 3 years. Assets taken from non-compliant visitors. Cars, cash, jewelry, all minorities. L.A. gripped the wheel. A legalized theft ring and deadly, Rita said quietly. Treasury agent Marcus Reyes tried investigating last year. He disappeared before Elle could reply. A faint buzzing filled the sky. Milo looked up through the windshield. Mom, that's not a plane. A drone, sleek and black, trailed behind them. Police issue. Red lights pulsed beneath its wings. They're tracking the car's chip. Ella realized. Milo's hands flew over his keyboard. I can jam it. But not for long. Keller's voice echoed through the drone's speaker. Pull over, Carver. Last warning before I put you down like the others. Others? Elle whispered, a chill down her spine. He's bluffing. Right? Milo asked. No, she said. He's bragging. She hit the brakes, swerved off the main road, and raced toward the dunes. The drone followed, lowering, buzzing like a mechanical wasp. Hold on, she shouted. The car skidded in sand. She jumped out, drew her Glock, and took aim. One breath, one memory of Jamal's training at the range, and she fired. The bullet struck the drone's center. It spun wildly, then exploded, showering the beach in sparks. The smell of burning plastic mixed with salt air. Milo exhaled, shaking. Mom, that was insane. That was survival, she said, scanning the horizon. They'll send more. They ditched the car and hiked to a shabby roadside motel, the kind that didn't ask for ID. The neon sign flickered weakly. Rooms by the hour. Inside. They met Ruth Annabelle Donovan, a wiry 75-year-old with sharp blue eyes and a spine like steel. She opened the door before Elle could knock. You're the agent on the news, she said. I've been waiting for someone like you. Ruth handed her a battered leather notebook. I've been tracking Mercer for 45 years. My boy, Samuel, died in his custody in 1980. Resisting arrest, they said. I've written down every name since, every theft, every beating, every lie. The pages were filled with names, badge numbers, and photos. Ella's throat tightened. You did all this alone? Not alone, Ruth said, smiling faintly. Silver surge, 200 retirees armed with smartphones and grandkids who know TikTok. Milo perked up. TikTok? Yes, sweetheart. My bridge club went viral once over a mayor's DUI cover-up. We'll do it again. Elle smiled for the first time in days. Ruth, you might just save us all. The old woman chuckled. Honey, we seniors have time and fury. You've got proof. Together. That's war. But peace shattered when headlights cut across the window. A white van stopped outside. Stenciled letters glared through the curtain. Child Protective Services. Ella's heart froze. Milo, get behind me. Boots hit the gravel, a woman's voice shouted. Open up. Child neglect investigation. They're coming, Milo whispered, clutching his shark-shaped toy. The drone's flash drive was hidden inside it. Don't let them take me. Mom! Elle raised her weapon, eyes burning with defiance. They're not taking you, baby. But deep down, she knew. This was only the beginning of the storm. The door crashed open before dawn, hinges ripping like gunfire. Elle barely had time to aim before a swarm of deputies in tactical gear flooded the room, shouting over one another. Hands on your head! Step away from the child! In the chaos! A woman in a Navy CPS vest pushed forward, tablet raised like a shield. I'm Agent Sarah Walsh, Child Protective Services, she barked. We have an emergency order, evidence of neglect and substance abuse. Elle froze, disbelief flashing to rage. What evidence? Walsh hit play on her screen, and there it was, footage of Elle at the pool, staggering drunk, slurring words, abandoning her son near the water. It was flawless. Terrifyingly real, but Elle had never touched a drop. That's fake, she snapped. Deep fake. You're being manipulated. Keller's voice echoed from the hallway, smug and venomous. Sure it is. Agent Carver, you think the whole county's lying? He stepped into view, one hand resting on his holster, smirk curling under the dim motel light. Maybe we should have shot your husband slower. Would have taught you obedience. The words hit her harder than any bullet. Rage burned through her veins. She lunged forward, but a baton cracked across her head. Stars exploded behind her eyes, and the world went black. She hit the floor hard. Milo screamed, "Mom!" and tried to run to her, but two deputies grabbed him, twisting his arms. "Mommy!" he cried as they dragged him away. Walsh's voice was cold and practiced. Child secured. Proceed to holding. In that instant. Milo slipped something small into his shark toy, the flash drive with every incriminating file they'd uncovered. Then he was gone. When Elle came to, she was in a gray cell, wrists cuffed to a metal table. Her head throbbed, blood matted in her hair. The fluorescent light hummed like judgment. Across from her sat a man in a cheap suit, his badge clipped crookedly. Agent Carver, he said dryly. You've been suspended pending investigation. We found evidence of unauthorized offshore transfers totaling $80,000. Care to explain? Elle laughed weakly. You're joking. My accounts were hacked. Funny, he said, tapping his pen. That's what criminals always say. She leaned forward, eyes cold. Call Rita Navarro. DOJ. She'll clear this in 5 minutes. He stared at her, unmoved. She's not taking your calls. And with that, he left, alone again. Elle stared at her reflection in the one-way glass, for a moment. She saw Jamal's face overlapping hers, his voice whispering, Don't break. Elle, they want you broken. Hours later, a guard tossed her a phone. Unknown number. Make it quick, he said. Elle answered, her voice hoarse. Who is this? A woman whispered, trembling. Agent Carver. It's Officer Riley Pierce. Ella's breath caught. You were there that night. I was, Riley said, guilt thick in her voice. I can't sleep anymore. Keller and Mercer. They've been running this for years. I have proof. Meet me where it started. Walmart parking lot. 10 minutes. The line went dead. Ella's pulse steadied. She looked up at the guard. I'm done waiting. 10 minutes later. She walked out. Free on a quiet release order Rita must have pulled behind the scenes. The parking lot was nearly empty when she arrived. Riley sat in an unmarked sedan, eyes red-rimmed and haunted. I can't live with it anymore, she said, handing Elle a small USB drive. It's all there, emails, payment logs, and the recording of Mercer admitting to killing Agent Marcus Reyes. Ella's hands trembled. Reyes? The Treasury agent who vanished? Mercer had him drowned in his own pool. Riley whispered, said it looked cleaner that way. Ella's stomach twisted. And Keller? Riley looked down. He filmed it. For a moment. Neither spoke. The ocean wind carried the faint hum of traffic, the world still spinning as though justice hadn't just lost its soul. Why help me now? Ella asked quietly. Riley swallowed hard. Because I was on that raid, the one that killed your husband. Silence fell heavy as stone. Riley's voice cracked. It was my bullet that hit him. I thought I was saving my team. I didn't know he was unarmed. Ella's chest tightened. The part of her that was human wanted to scream, to hit her, to make her feel that night's agony. But the agent in her, the woman who'd risen from the ashes of that moment, knew better, she whispered. Then make it right. Riley nodded, tears falling freely. I'm ready to testify. That night, while hiding in Ruth Donovan's spare room. Ella spread the documents across a kitchen table cluttered with coffee mugs and cobbler plates. Names, dates, transfer codes. It was a digital empire built on hate. Ruth, leaning on her cane, looked over her shoulder. You've got everything you need, sweetheart. Time to go public. We will, Elle said, but they'll try to erase it first. Just then, her phone vibrated violently. The screen glitched, lines distorting, apps vanishing. Lang's hacking me. She muttered, He owns the system running the county servers. Ruth frowned. Then we fight fire with grandkids. My bridge club's on standby. Across town, in a foster facility. Milo sat alone in a bunk bed. Tears dried on his cheeks. The shark toy lay beside him. He pulled out his old tablet, the one Elle had given him for coding lessons. A message blinked from a hidden app. Backup failed. Do you want to attempt AI recovery? His small fingers trembled as he hit yes. The screen filled with scrolling code, then slowly reconstructed file names, emails, videos. Lang's voice captured in snippets. Eliminate the Treasury snoop. Make it look accidental. Milo gasped. Got it, he whispered. He slipped the tablet back under his pillow just as a guard walked by. The next morning. Ella met Riley again at a quiet stretch of beach. The tide was high, waves crashing against the rocks. Riley handed her a phone. Lang's planning a meeting tonight at Mercer's cabin. You'll get your proof. Elle nodded, determination blazing. You're coming too. Riley hesitated. If I do, there's no going back. Neither of us can, Elle said softly. Riley gave a small, broken laugh. Guess it's fitting. Two ghosts chasing redemption. Elle turned toward the horizon, eyes fixed on the fading light. The war wasn't over. It had only changed weapons, from guns to drones, from bullets to bites. And this time, the truth was, their only ammunition. Behind her. The wind carried the faintest sound of a child's laughter, echoing from somewhere far off, a reminder of what she was fighting for, her son, her husband's memory, and every name written in Ruth's weathered notebook. The battle for justice had gone digital, but its heartbeat was still human. And as Elle loaded the USB into her encrypted drive, she whispered to herself, You took my peace. Now I'll take your power. The fog rolled in thick over the Malibu hills that night, wrapping the world in gray silence. From the dirt road outside Dalton Mercer's hunting cabin, Elle Carver sat behind the wheel of her unmarked car. Headset on, eyes locked on the dim lights flickering through the trees. Beside her, Officer Riley Pierce adjusted the wire under her jacket, hands trembling. "You sure this'll hold?" she asked quietly. "It'll pick up everything," Ella replied. "One clear confession, and the FBI has grounds for a RICO raid." Riley nodded, swallowing hard. "He trusts me. I'll play along." The fear in her eyes wasn't just for herself. It was penance for the lives she'd helped destroy. Elle watched her step out, disappear into the fog, the crunch of gravel fading into the low murmur of voices. She tightened her grip on the receiver, the old instinct of a field agent pulsing through her veins. Then came Mercer's voice, lazy, drawling, full of arrogance. "Evening. Deputy Pierce, didn't think you had the guts to show." Ice clinked in glasses, the soft hum of a generator in the distance. Riley played her part perfectly. "Just keeping you updated. Sheriff, the feds cornered, phone wiped, and CPS took her kid." Mercer chuckled, low and cruel. "Good work. Keller says she screamed like a banshee when they dragged the brat out. Guess she finally learned who runs Malibu." Elle's jaw tightened. In her ear, the men's laughter curdled like poison. Another voice joined in. "Vincent Lorenzo, the resort manager. She made us look bad in front of all those guests. My investors are furious. But hey, we got the trespass order filed." Mercer scoffed. "A black fed in my county? Not on my watch. My old man built these beaches. Then the quotas came. Now they want to flood the coast with Section 8 trash and call it progress." Riley kept her tone even. "Lang's happy with the progress. Though, said your numbers doubled this quarter?" Mercer grinned. "Damn right they did. 40% kickback from every resort. All laundered clean through Lang's offshore servers. 5.2 million and counting. Poor fools never even knew they were paying for their own eviction." Ella's hands shook. Each word was another nail in their coffin. "And Reyes?" Riley asked. Voice soft. A pause. Then Mercer's voice dropped, low and dangerous. "That Treasury boy? Snooping into my seizures like he owned the place. Keller handled it, quick and quiet, found his body floating 2 towns over, nice and clean." Keller's laughter followed. "Yeah. Mercer called it a swimming lesson. Man should have stayed in his lane." Ella's stomach turned. Her husband's killers, her tormentors. These men laughed like it was a joke. "And Carver?" Mercer went on. "Don't worry about her. Lang's people are already wiping her digital trail. By morning, she won't exist. Hell, maybe we'll plant something else. Drugs, maybe a gun. Make it a closed case." Riley's voice quivered. "And the kid?" Mercer sneered. "Kids grow up just like their parents. Better to break the line while they're young." That was enough. Ella ripped the headset off, kicked open the car door, and stormed through the fog. The wind bit at her skin, but the rage inside burned hotter. She burst from the trees, Glock raised, shouting, "FBI, drop your weapons!" The porch light flared. Keller swung around, gun half drawn, eyes wide. "You!" he spat. Riley turned toward her, voice shaking. "Elle, wait!" Mercer ducked behind the porch column, hand reaching for his shotgun, but before anyone could fire, a shadow lunged from the side, a masked man with a knife, blade flashing in the dim light. Riley screamed. The hitman's blade slashed her arm as he tackled her to the ground. Ella charged forward, instincts firing, one strike to his wrist, blade clattered, a sharp knee to his gut, an elbow to the throat. The man collapsed, choking for air. Elle twisted his arm behind his back, cuffing him in seconds. "Federal custody," she hissed, voice trembling with fury. Riley pressed a hand to her wound, blood seeping through her sleeve. He was Lang's. She gasped, said they'd silence us both. Keller stumbled backward, panic replacing arrogance. "You don't get it. Carver! Mercer owns this county. Not anymore," she said coldly, aiming square at his badge. Before she could pull the trigger, distant sirens pierced the night. Backup. The fog glowed red and blue as patrol cars crested the hill. Mercer cursed, tossing his shotgun and running into the trees. "I'll bury you for this." "Carver!" he shouted. She didn't chase him. Not yet. She dragged the hitman to the curb, zip-tied and gasping, and looked at Riley. "You're coming with me. You testify. And we end this." Riley nodded weakly, tears streaking her face. "You saved my life." "No," Elle said softly, glancing toward the dark forest where Mercer fled. "You're going to save mine." Back at Ruth Donovan's bungalow, the Silver Surge was already mobilizing. The retirees had seen enough through their drones and live streams. "Upload it all," Ruth commanded, her voice sharp as ever. "Every word, every confession, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. You sure?" "Ruth?" one woman asked. "This could get ugly." "Darlin'." "It's been ugly since 1980, Ruth said, slamming her hand on the table. Within hours, the videos spread like wildfire. Mercer's voice bragging about the kickbacks. Keller's laughter over Reyes's murder. The internet erupted. News anchors scrambled. The hashtag Malibu shadows hit 1 million posts before sunrise. Ruth grinned at the flood of comments. "Would you look at that? My bridge club just toppled a sheriff." Ella exhaled, exhaustion and disbelief mixing with quiet triumph. Milo's foster guardian called soon after, voice trembling. "Agent Carver, your boy's safe. He's been showing us something, videos, files," he said. "Send it to the FBI." Ella's throat tightened. "That's my son." By morning, the evidence was undeniable. Screens across the country replayed Mercer's brag, Keller's cruelty, and Lorenzo's confession about the deny list. Talk shows called it the most shocking digital corruption scandal in California's history. Yet, Elle knew it wasn't over. Mercer was still out there, cornered but dangerous. That night, while she watched the surf crash beneath her motel balcony, her phone buzzed. A message, unknown number. "You think you've won? Tomorrow, we take the boy again." Her jaw clenched. She turned to Ruth, who sat knitting beside her, calm as a saint. "They're coming for us," Ella whispered. Ruth didn't flinch. "Then let them come," she said, eyes glinting behind her glasses. "We've got the truth, the proof, and about 50 million people watching." Elle smiled faintly, tucking her badge into her pocket. "Tomorrow," she said quietly, "we bring the whole house down. By morning." The county building looked like a battlefield of justice dressed in sunlight. Hundreds of people, activists, retirees, reporters, filled the courtyard, their chants rising like waves against the marble walls. In the center, Ruth Annabelle Donovan sat in her wheelchair under a handmade banner that read, "Silver Surge, We Remember," around her. Seniors unfolded lawn chairs, passed out cobbler and lemonade, and waved signs. "Clean Malibu means dirty cops. Justice for the stolen. All welcome means all races." The air vibrated with energy, with years of silence breaking at once, from the steps above. Elle Carver watched, her FBI badge clipped to her jacket but her heart pounding like it hadn't since her first raid. Beside her, Riley Pierce adjusted her sling, pale but resolute. "You sure about this?" Riley asked. "Mercer's gonna come hard." Elle nodded. "Let him. The world's watching now." And they were. 50 million eyes across TikTok, YouTube, and news streams. Ruth's grandkids had rigged drones to broadcast every second. What had started as one woman's humiliation at a pool was now a national reckoning. The courthouse doors opened, and Mercer stepped out. Sunglasses on, suit pressed, arrogance intact, cameras flashed like lightning. "Sheriff Mercer!" a reporter shouted. "Did you authorize the racial blacklist used by Malibu Resorts?" He smirked. "Fake news from a disgruntled federal agent. You people will believe anything with a hashtag." Keller appeared beside him, his badge glinting, his face strained but defiant. "You don't belong here, Carver." He muttered as he passed her. You think TikTok makes you a hero? No, Elle said softly. Truth does. She walked to the podium, cameras clicking like a firing squad. She looked out over the crowd, over the faces that had been ignored, profiled, broken. Her voice was steady. My name is Special Agent L. Carver, FBI Civil Rights Division. I came to Malibu as a mother, not as an agent, but when hate comes for your child, you fight. She lifted Ruth's worn notebook high, its pages trembling in the breeze. 45 years of evidence, 200 stolen lives, over $5 million seized through fake warrants, deep fakes, and threats, all under Sheriff Dalton Mercer's watch. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Elle turned toward the big screen behind her. Milo's recovered footage played, Keller grabbing her at the pool, the drone exploding mid-air, the CPS raid, and finally Mercer's voice from the recorded meeting, boasting about Reyes's murder and keeping the beaches clean. The gasps turned to shouts. Mercer lunged forward, yelling, "That's doctored!" But Riley stepped up beside Elle, microphone in hand. I was there, she said, voice shaking. I wore the badge. I fired the bullets. And I recorded that meeting. Mercer ordered killings. Keller enforced them. I can't undo the past, but I can end this. The crowd erupted, chants rising. Justice now! Justice now! Mercer tried to push through the reporters, but FBI SUVs screeched into the square. Agents poured out, weapons drawn. Sheriff Dalton Mercer, you're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and RICO violations. A marshal shouted. Mercer's eyes widened. You got nothing on me, he yelled as handcuffs clicked shut. This is my county, not anymore, Elle said. The seniors formed a human chain, blocking his path, their canes and walkers rising like banners. Ruth leaned forward in her chair, voice steady as iron. You stole my son's life. Now you answer for every one of ours. Keller stumbled next, swarmed by protesters, his face pale, his arrogance gone. You'll rot. Keller, someone shouted. He didn't reply, just looked at Elle, jaw trembling, eyes hollow. Reporters surrounded her, flashing lights blinding, but Elle stayed calm. This isn't just about one county, she said. It's about a system that uses technology to modernize hate. Algorithms don't discriminate by accident. They're programmed to, and we're here to say no more. The chant rose again, rhythmic, unrelenting. Ruth smiled through tears. Would you listen to that? Honey, she whispered. That's the sound of change. Moments later, a van door opened. Milo stepped out, escorted by a social worker. His small backpack hung off one shoulder, his shark toy clutched tight. Mom! He shouted. Elle ran to him, scooping him up, burying her face in his curls. The crowd cheered louder. You did it, Milo whispered. They can't hurt anyone now. No, baby, she said, voice breaking, because you made sure they couldn't. She turned to the crowd, holding him high. This is who they tried to take from me, from all of us, and this is who we fight for. Cameras zoomed in, capturing the tears, the defiance, the triumph. The story of a mother and her son had become a movement. By noon, every major outlet in the country was running the footage live. The FBI confirmed the arrests. Federal prosecutors filed charges against Mercer, Keller, Lorenzo, and Lang. Donations poured into a victims' relief fund within hours, $500,000 before sunset. The Silver Surge live stream hit 75 million views by nightfall. On social media, users called it the day Malibu changed, as the sun began to set. Ruth rolled up beside Ella, a paper plate of cobbler in her lap. You know, she said with a tired smile, I always wanted to see justice before I died. Never thought it'd come with hashtags and drones. Elle laughed softly. Justice doesn't care how it gets here, as long as it does. So what now? Ruth asked. Elle looked out at the ocean, where the last light of day met the rising moon. Now, she said, we make sure it never happens again. She turned back to the stage, raising her badge one last time. To every family they silenced, your stories matter. And to everyone watching, this is not the end. This is the beginning. The crowd applauded, hundreds of voices blending with the crash of the waves below. Reporters captured the final image, a black mother standing tall beside her son and a sea of gray-haired warriors. Sunlight glinting off her badge as banners fluttered behind her. It wasn't a riot. It was redemption. And for the first time since Jamal's death. Elle Carver allowed herself to breathe. The world had seen. The truth had won. And somewhere in that vast blue sky above Malibu, she felt her husband's spirit whisper back, proud and free, you fought smart. Baby, you brought the light. The next morning, the FBI descended on Malibu like a storm no one could stop. Black SUVs rolled through the palm-lined drive of Breeze Resort, engines low and deliberate, agents in windbreakers fanning out across the marble lobby. Guests scattered, clutching their luggage as the spectacle unfolded. Elle Carver stepped out first, badge in hand, her expression composed but unyielding. The front desk clerk froze. Mid-sentence, Agent Carver, one tech agent said, rushing forward. We've secured the main server, deepfake data found, massive storage of manipulated footage and blacklists. Elle nodded. Preserve everything. Chain of custody sealed. In the center of the lobby, Vincent Lorenzo, the resort manager, stumbled backward as two federal marshals approached. Wait! Wait! This is all a misunderstanding, he cried. I just followed orders. From whom? Elle asked coolly. He hesitated, sweat rolling down his temple. From Lang. Victor Lang. He handled the finances. I just ran the place. Then you can explain it in interrogation, Ella replied. Lorenzo's voice cracked. Please, I didn't know they were stealing from people. But the handcuffs clicked anyway, metal echoing against marble like justice long overdue, upstairs. Digital forensics teams worked like surgeons, hard drives, security cameras, and even smart thermostats were bagged as evidence. One analyst approached Elle with a tablet. We recovered something off the deepfake system. The same AI that framed you was used to forge evidence for dozens of other victims. He scrolled through the files. Brown, seizure footage, Martinez, arrest edit, Singh, property forfeit. Elle's throat tightened. Every one of them deserves compensation, she said. Every name goes on the report, outside. Drones hovered over the property, capturing the historic raid that news channels had already dubbed Operation Malibu Redemption. Meanwhile, in Silicon Valley, a live feed showed Victor Lang pacing inside his glass office tower. His assistant stammered. Sir, the feds. Don't touch anything, Lang barked, sweat beading under his perfect haircut. On his laptop screen, an email flashed from Mercer. They got me. Run. But there was no running. Within minutes, FBI Cyber Division agents stormed the building, cuffing Lang mid-Zoom call. Victor Lang, you're under arrest for money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Lang's smile flickered, his composure cracking. You can't prove a thing, he hissed. But Elle's face appeared on the live monitor, transmitted from Malibu. We already did, she said. The feed played Mercer's recorded confession, Lang's voice from the recovered emails. Kickbacks secured, clean the coast, eliminate Reyes. His empire collapsed in seconds. The company's stock plummeted 80% by afternoon. Forbes ran a breaking headline. Tech's racist kingpin toppled in $5 million civil rights scandal. Back in Orange County. Keller's ranch was raided next. Officers found $1.2 million in cash hidden in walls, luxury vehicles bought under fake names, and a stack of blacklisted guest files. When Keller was dragged outside in handcuffs, the same crowd he once patrolled now lined the fences, shouting, "Justice for Jamal, justice for Elle." His wife drove past without stopping. Later, in court documents, She'd file for divorce, citing irreparable moral corruption, by evening. District Attorney Carla Hawthorne, once Mercer's protector, held a press conference trying to control the fallout. Cameras rolled as she spoke stiffly. The County of Orange will fully cooperate with federal authorities. But mid-speech, her assistant rushed in, whispering urgently. The microphone caught her next words. Emails? From Lang? Impossible. The projection screen behind her flickered, displaying her own signed memos authorizing false charges, each one tied to Lang's campaign donations. The crowd erupted. Reporters shouted over one another. "Madam DA, did you take bribes?" Her face went white. No comment. She whispered, stepping away. Within an hour, she was placed under arrest for corruption and obstruction of justice. Her resignation hit the airwaves by nightfall, inside the FBI's temporary command post. Elle sat in a folding chair, exhaustion pulling at her bones. Rita Navarro entered, holding 2 coffee cups. "I thought I'd find you here," she said softly. "You did it. Elle, you actually did it." Elle exhaled, staring at the evidence board now crowded with photos, names, and red strings connecting them all. Mercer, Lang, Keller, Lorenzo, Hawthorne, every one of them circled in crimson marker. "It wasn't just me," Elle said. "Ruth, Milo, Riley. They made this possible." Rita smiled faintly. "You turned a nightmare into a reform case study." Elle took the coffee, staring into the steam. "You ever think justice costs too much?" "Always." Rita replied, "But it's still worth every penny." Across the hall, Riley sat with her arm bandaged, giving her official statement. Her voice cracked as she recounted Mercer's orders, Keller's brutality, and her own guilt. "I can't undo what I did," she said quietly, "but I can testify." An agent nodded. "You'll get witness protection, new name, new start." Riley smiled faintly. "Good. I'd like to earn it this time." When Elle stepped outside, dusk painted the sky in gold and violet. Reporters clustered behind barricades, calling her name. But she ignored them, walking toward the edge of the bluff overlooking the Pacific. The ocean shimmered, endless and calm, as if washing the sins of Malibu clean. Behind her, Ruth approached slowly, leaning on her cane. "They say Mercer's gone," she murmured. Elle turned. "Gone?" "Suicide in his cell," Ruth said quietly, left a note blaming everyone but himself. Elle closed her eyes, the weight of it heavy. He never could face his own reflection. Ruth's voice softened. "Justice ain't always pretty, dear, but it's still justice." Within days, the fallout spread nationwide. Resort chains across California suspended operations pending investigation. The Justice Department launched a task force to identify similar digital discrimination programs. Civil suits piled up, 50 and counting. Keller lost everything, his $3 million in damages seized to compensate victims. Lorenzo was deported to Italy after pleading guilty to conspiracy. Carla Hawthorne's bar license was revoked. Lang's company dissolved, his assets seized, and the FBI released a statement naming Elle Carver as lead investigator whose courage exposed the intersection of bias and technology in modern policing. At the commendation ceremony a week later, the deputy director himself stood at the podium. "Special Agent Elle Carver," he said, voice steady, for valor, resilience, and integrity in the pursuit of truth under direct threat. "You are awarded the Bureau's Civil Rights Honor Commendation." Applause filled the room. Elle stepped forward, shaking his hand. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice steady though her heart raced. "But the honor belongs to every victim who refused to stay silent." In the back row, Milo grinned wide, whispering to Ruth, "Mom's a hero." Ruth chuckled softly. She already was. Kid. The world just caught up. Later that night, the 3 of them stood outside under the Malibu stars. Milo clutched his repaired drone, now engraved with a tiny FBI emblem. You think they'll let me join the hacker squad one day? He asked eagerly. Ella laughed, brushing his curls back. At this rate, you'll be running it? Rita joined them, holding a glass of lemonade. He's already half the reason we solved it, she said. Maybe we start him as an intern. Ruth raised her cobbler dish in salute. To the Carvers, and to the Silver Surge, proof you're never too old, or too young, to change the world, for the first time in years. Elle smiled without the weight of sorrow. The horizon glowed faintly, promising a dawn that felt different. This wasn't just victory. It was rebirth. For her son, for every name in that weathered notebook. Justice had come full circle. 2 weeks later, the Malibu Breeze Resort no longer looked like the same place where humiliation had once echoed beside the pool. The air was lighter now, the energy different, a place reborn. A new sign stood proudly at the entrance, framed by palm trees and sunlight, all welcome. DOJ certified, beneath it. The sound of laughter replaced silence, and families of every background filled the cabanas and infinity pool without fear. Elle Carver stood on the balcony overlooking it all, her FBI badge resting on the table beside her untouched. For the first time in years, she didn't need it. This was no longer a battlefield, it was healing ground. Milo ran toward the pool, waving, "Race you to the water." "Mom!" he shouted, his grin wide, his spirit unburdened. Elle smiled, kicking off her sandals. "You're on. Partner." She dove in after him, sunlight scattering through the ripples like shattered glass turning to gold. Around them, laughter and splashing filled the air. Children playing, elders resting under umbrellas, couples of every color sharing peace in the same sun. It was everything the world should have been all along. When she climbed out of the pool, Ruth Annabelle Donovan was waiting nearby, sitting under a white umbrella with her ever-present notebook. But this time, the pages weren't filled with tragedy. They contained signatures from victims, survivors, and supporters of what was now called the Malibu Justice Reform Act, passed by the California Assembly just a week earlier. The law outlawed algorithmic bias in hospitality and policing apps, enforcing federal oversight for digital discrimination. "You did it." "Honey," Ruth said with a proud smile. "The governor signed it this morning. Anti-Tech Profiling Act, 5-0 vote." Elle wrapped her in a hug, her voice trembling. "No, we did it." Silver Surge started a movement. Ruth chuckled softly. "We just used the tools young folks built to clean up the mess our generation left behind. Behind them." Milo's drone hovered in the air, capturing the moment. Smile. "Grandma Ruth," he called. 50 million people watched your speech on TikTok." Ruth laughed so hard she nearly dropped her lemonade. 50 million? I can't even work my voicemail. But her eyes softened as she looked at the horizon. "Samuel would have loved this," she whispered, thinking of her son, whose death decades ago had started her crusade. Elle squeezed her hand. So would Jamal. The two women sat quietly for a moment, watching the waves roll in, the same ocean that had once hidden secrets now reflecting the truth they'd fought for. Later that afternoon, Elle stood at the resort entrance with reporters gathered for the reopening ceremony. Cameras flashed, but this time the attention felt different, respectful. She adjusted the microphone, her voice calm, yet filled with conviction. $5.2 million, she began. That's what they stole from innocent people. Today, that same amount has been returned to 150 families who thought the system would never see them. She paused, emotion tightening her throat. Justice isn't a headline. It's a promise kept. The crowd applauded, quiet but heartfelt. Ruth rolled forward in her chair, lifting her notebook like a torch. Every name here was a life that mattered, she declared. The audience rose to their feet, As the ceremony ended, Ella found a quiet spot near the shoreline. The sun was sinking low, painting the sky in hues of orange and lavender. Milo ran up beside her, barefoot, holding 2 ice creams. "Double scoop chocolate chip," he said proudly. "You earned it." "Mom," she smiled, taking one. "Thanks, partner." "So, future FBI hacker still in training? Already working on my coding project," he said, licking his cone. "A new app that flags racial bias in real time. I'm calling it Justice Track Jr." She laughed softly. "Your father would have been proud." "You think so?" he asked. Ella looked out at the waves. "I know so. In Washington." Headlines blared across major networks. FBI agent's vacation exposes $5 million racial tech scheme. New federal oversight planned. The story had gone beyond California now. It had become national reform. Major resorts began removing biased data systems, and tech firms scrambled to audit their algorithms. Ella's inbox overflowed with messages, from victims thanking her, from agents seeking to join her new task force, from students inspired to study digital ethics. Even the FBI announced the formation of a permanent division to combat algorithmic discrimination, headed by none other than Special Agent L. Carver. But tonight wasn't about titles or politics. It was about peace. She sat on the sand with Milo, watching the tide creep closer, the waves washing over their footprints. Ruth joined them, humming softly, her voice barely rising above the surf. The moment was fragile but full, a world finally beginning to make sense again. "Funny," Ruth said, looking at Elle. "I fought 45 years for one apology. Never thought I'd get a revolution instead." Elle smiled. "It's not over, but it's a start." They stayed until the sky turned dark and the stars began to appear. Tiny lights scattered across the heavens, much like the small acts of courage that had changed everything. Elle took a deep breath, letting the ocean air fill her lungs. "Jamal," she whispered to the night. "We did it. We turned shadows into light." The breeze seemed to answer, soft and warm, wrapping around her like his memory. The next morning, as news anchors replayed the footage of Mercer's downfall and Lang's sentencing, Elle and Milo packed up to leave Malibu. At the resort gate, a young Latina receptionist stopped them, nervous but smiling. "Agent Carver, before you go." "Thank you. My family was on that deny list. We were blacklisted from staying here last year. Now I work the front desk." Elle smiled gently. "That's the kind of reform that matters most." As they drove away, the new sign gleamed in the sunlight, the bold letters catching the wind. "All welcome." Back on the highway, Milo leaned against her arm, drowsy. "Mom," he murmured. "You think bad people ever change?" Elle thought for a moment before answering. "Some do. Most don't. But that's why people like us have to keep trying, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." He smiled, eyes closing. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby," she said softly, brushing his hair back as the coastline disappeared in the rearview mirror. That evening, news broke nationwide. Mercer's seized assets officially distributed. The Silver Surge movement registered as a non-profit watchdog group, and Ruth's name added to the state's Civil Rights Hall of Honor. The headlines faded with time, but the legacy didn't. L. Carver's name became synonymous with accountability. Milo's Justice Track Jr. went viral at his school, winning a national coding award, and once a year, on the anniversary of that fateful week. Ella returned to Malibu, not as an agent, but as a mother and a woman who refused to bend. She would walk along the shore, stop at the edge of the water, and whisper the same words each time. For Jamal. For every voice they tried to silence. The waves answered in their own language. Steady, eternal, unbroken. Justice had come full circle, and this time, it stayed. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share to keep these stories alive.